once again here to talk about this ever so important virtue, this important element of the fruit of the Spirit, kindness. Amen? Kindness. And this morning, in lieu of introduction, we will use as the backdrop to our teaching a reference to a work in French literature that really has no equals, but of course it's a work that is so well known that of course those of us who are here in the United States and really around the world, we know of this work. It's a work called Les Misérables. In English, I love when they pronounce it, they say Les Misérables, but it's Les Misérables. And Les Misérables is a novel that was written by Victor Hugo. And in this novel, the main idea, the main thing in this novel here is that one act of kindness takes place in this novel that drastically changes someone's life for the better. Now, the protagonist in this story is a man by the name of Jean Valjean, and this guy, Jean Valjean, had his sister who pretty much had a problem. The problem was that his sister's children were starving. They were so hungry that Jean Valjean went and stole a loaf of bread to bring it to feed his sister's starving children. And as many of you know the story, he would later be arrested for that act of, I don't know, petty or grand larceny, depending on how you're judging it. He would spend 19 years in prison, and he would, of course, thereafter be released. Upon release, he obviously couldn't find work because he was a felon, he was a convict, and certainly his record would have reflected so he was not able to get work anywhere. And so he was reduced to walking around in the streets and panhandling, asking for money here and there. And in the course of doing all that, he came upon a bishop one day, and the bishop that he went to ask for some money, the bishop gave him more than money. The bishop invited him in his home and pretty much allowed him to spend the night. Gave him supper, gave him a bed to sleep, and he spent the night. But again, while he was sleeping that night, the temptation to steal came, and unfortunately he yielded to that temptation, stealing some silver plates from the bishop's home and slipping out of the door by night. So he left. But they would still catch up with him because he was, a guy in rags, looking dirty, looking poor, with silver plates. And as my brother noted this morning, those plates were somewhat unique. They knew exactly where they had come from. They had come from the bishop's home, and so they arrested him once again and brought him before the bishop, who, when he saw him, looked at him and said, no, Jean Valjean didn't actually steal those plates. I actually gave them to him. In fact, not only did I give them to him, he actually forgot to take the candlesticks that come with it. Jean Valjean was so surprised, so stupefied, so astounded by this act of kindness that he would later in that novel become a man of unequaled integrity. Now, that virtue that bishop manifested, that also changed the life of Jean Valjean, is what is going to arrest our attention for the next 25 minutes or so. That virtue is called kindness. Someone say kindness. In talking about kindness this afternoon, let me first draw your attention to the nature of kindness. If you would project Luke chapter 6, verse 35, the nature of kindness. And let's read together in a loud voice. Let's go. But love your enemies, do, and hoping for, and your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High, for he is kind to the unthankful. Now, therein we can extract a definition of kindness. Kindness is doing good without expecting anything in return. Kindness is doing good without expecting anything in return. And we really want you to understand that we're not really preaching, we're teaching, so we certainly have changed our tone to facilitate you, you grasping what it is that we're talking about this morning. So kindness is doing good without expecting anything in return. And as you just read in the verse, you know, we are called to do good. We are called to do what is right without expecting anything in return. And even though that is not the case the majority of the time, that is exactly what we are called to do as people of God. And so this afternoon, let me help you distinguish between two kinds of kindness to help you understand what it means to do good without expecting anything in return. First, we have what we would call manipulative kindness. Manipulative kindness, certainly in the word manipulative, you see the word manipulation. And what is manipulative kindness? Manipulative kindness is, first of all, the kind of kindness that gets, or that takes. It's the kind of kindness that gets or that takes. Let's go to Proverbs 26:24, and we'll frame exactly what we're trying to say here. Let's read that. It says, he who disguises it with and lays up within himself. Manipulative kindness can be illustrated. I think one of the best ways to illustrate this is to share with you a story that Pastor Greg once told us. It's a story. Now, those of us from we may remember Kirby vacuums. You know, Kirby, it was a company that had salespeople going all around the United States, knocking on your door like Jehovah's Witnesses and selling vacuums. And Pastor Greg was at home on a Saturday morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, and a salesman from Kirby knocked on his door, walked in and sat down. And the man had such the right words, was so charming in his presentation, was so well prepared, and he spent about 30 minutes making a presentation of that vacuum cleaner. And after that presentation, Pastor Greg and family ended up buying a $1,000 vacuum. But the interesting thing about that vacuum that they purchased was that it wasn't until after the guy left and that they had purchased the vacuum that they realized that they had no carpet in the house. No carpet in the house. But this man was so kind. He was so charming. He presented himself so well that he got the people to buy a vacuum cleaner that they didn't even need. I've often heard that in the sales world, they say this one is so good at selling that he'll sell fire in hell. And so some people are like that. They just got it like that. And so, but I want you to understand the driving element behind that kind of charm, behind that kind of niceness and kindness is manipulation. You know why? Because that kindness seeks to get, and once it gets, it forgets. Has that ever happened to you that you walk into a store and they're ready to roll the red carpet for you? Right? Just to get you to buy something. And sometimes after you've gone to the cashier and paid for that item, on your way out, you meet the same person who was being nice to you and they act like they don't even know you. They act like they don't even know you. Why? Because that is the kind of kindness that is manipulative. All right? That is manipulative. But that is not the kind of kindness that Paul is calling us to have. Paul is rather calling us to have another kind of kindness. He's calling us to have what we would call authentic kindness. Authentic kindness is that kindness that gives. Someone say gives. It is the kind of kindness that gives. If you would turn to Genesis 42 and 18, we would illustrate to you exactly what it means. It says here, let's read together in a loud voice. It says, then all right, Joseph said to them, do this and live, for I fear God. I'll put you quickly in the context of this verse here. This is obviously Joseph, who has been elevated to, governor in Egypt. And of course, you know, his family, his brothers and father, they were faced with famine, hunger back in Israel, and they traveled to Egypt. And here is Joseph recognizing the family, but Joseph wanted to be kind. Now, of course, you know, Joseph had all sorts of reasons not to be kind, because Joseph was sold by those very same brothers. Amen? Joseph was sold by those very same brothers into slavery, and they brought him into Egypt. So those brothers forgot about Joseph, you know, for so many years. They forgot about Joseph. But here was that same Joseph who was now in a position to do good. And Joseph was kind to his brothers. He gave them what they came for. But of course, as you know the story, he gave them food to take back to his father, but he would hold hostage the younger brother Benjamin. But here's the beautiful thing about authentic kindness. While manipulative kindness gets and forgets, authentic kindness gives and forgives. Authentic kindness gives and forgives. Let's go to Genesis 45 and 4. Genesis 45 and 4, and Joseph, let's read together. And Joseph said to his brothers, please come near to me. So they came near, and he said, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. Verse 5. But now, do not therefore be grieved or angry with yourselves because you have sold me here, for God sent me here before you to preserve life. So authentic kindness not only gives, authentic kindness also forgives. So here was Joseph in a position to actually do bad, to actually be mean unto his brothers who had once sold them into slavery. But instead of doing bad, instead of even being kind in a manipulative way, Joseph not only gave, but Joseph forgave. And that is the kind of kindness that God is calling us to have. The kind of kindness that follows in the footsteps of Joseph. It forgives. It forgives. And that, my friends, brothers and sisters, that is the nature of kindness. Authentic kindness. We not only want to look at the nature of kindness this afternoon, we also want to look at the importance of kindness. Why is kindness so important? I mean, we're talking about manipulative kindness and authentic kindness, but why exactly is kindness so important? Proverbs 19 and 22 gives us an idea why kindness is so important. It says here, what is, let's read together, what is desired in a man is, and a poor man is better than a poor man is better than a liar. What is desired in a man is kindness. You know, this verse helps us to lay down one rule. When it comes to kindness, we need to be kind, first of all, because we are human. You guys with me? We need to be kind, first of all, because we are human. We are closer to humanity when we can be kind. Story goes that a lady by the name of Margaret Mead, who was a great American anthropologist of the 20th century, and they asked her the question one day. The question says, Margaret, what is the earliest sign of civilization in any given culture? What is the earliest sign of civilization in any given culture? And the student who asked the question expected the answer to be something like, I don't know, clay pot or a fish hook or a grinding stone, etc. But Margaret looked at that student and said, the earliest sign of civilization in any given culture is a healed femur. Now, those of you who maybe don't recall, in science, you remember when you were studying bones, anatomy, and physiology, the femur is a bone in your leg. It's one of the bones in your leg. And Margaret basically said that the earliest sign of civilization in any culture is a healed femur. In other words, a femur that was broken, a femur that was, I don't know, healed, a femur that was sick, a femur that was affected, and now that femur is healed. And why is that the sign of civilization in any given culture? Because, she explains, if a femur has time to heal, it is evidence that someone cared. Someone cared enough to do that injured person's hunting. Someone cared enough to help that injured person with their chores, help them to carry on, help them to do the things that they would normally do in their regular day life. And so here Margaret says the evidence of compassion is the first sign of civilization. You know, rudeness robs a man of his dignity. A selfish, unkind person is closer to an animal than a human being. Animals look out for themselves, but human beings look out for others. And that's exactly why Solomon wrote in Proverbs 19:22. He says, the charm of a man is his kindness. You know, the greatness of a man is not measured by the depth of his pocket or the breadth of his knowledge, but it is measured by the magnitude of his heart. How kind that man can be. And so when we look at the importance of kindness, we want to be kind, first of all, because we are human. Second of all, it is becoming of us to be kind because we are Christians. In Ephesians chapter 4 and 32, Paul again talks about this here. Paul says, let's read that together. It says, and be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God in Christ forgave you. You know, two things need to be underlined about kindness as Christians. First of all, we need to be kind because kindness reflects the nature of God. In Psalm 26, verse 3, we read, for thy loving kindness is before mine eyes. Thy loving kindness is before my eyes, and I have walked in your truth. Now, we know all about this word loving kindness. I remember once Pastor Greg spent some time teaching on this word. It is the word chesed in the Hebrew, okay, chesed, which is often translated loving kindness. David says, for thy loving kindness is before mine eyes, and I have walked in your truth. You know, the story goes of a little boy who was once asked, what do you think loving kindness is? The little boy said, well, if I was hungry and somebody gave me a piece of bread, now that's love. But if I was hungry and somebody gave me a piece of bread with some ham, mayonnaise, lettuce, and tomato, that's loving kindness. You know, that's loving kindness. But I'm here to tell you, loving kindness is not ham, it's not turkey, it's not lettuce, it's not tomatoes. It is the sort of kindness that is motivated by love. It is the sort of kindness that is motivated by love, the sort of kindness that sees another person's interest and not its own. God is kind